Hey all, I'm Brian. I'm the creator of Synthetic Heresy. I just want to kind of touch base with everybody today and kind of go over some of the cards that are included in the game. Um, Now, not all of these cards are going to be in the starter pack. They're actually about 320 different happens, and so there's a lot of content. We do have the option to purchase additional booster packs that basically contain more of the cards. So definitely feel free to grab those as well. But I definitely wanted to go ahead and check, kind of let you guys know what all the cards are about and kind of go through all that kind of stuff. Um, I did want to go and touch base real quick and go over kind of how far we've come. So this is actually one of the base cards that we originally created. And as you can see, it's almost like MS Paint, right? Look in image, right? So it has the green border here, right? It's very very much so. It was done in Photoshop, but that was my skills at that point in time, right? And then on the back, it just has summon, right? So really simplistic, really basic, but it kind of goes to show that whenever you put your work into it, and you really really focus on it and make it into something and make it a passion, that's what can happen. Even if you have something that's tiny, that's small, maybe it's just maybe you're not even 100% in love with it. That's okay, because whenever you end up getting to even with this game, right? Even though it doesn't look like much, whenever we would get some friends together and play it, it still struck those chords. Still got people excited. So um, remember that even if you have something in your life that is really really important to you, and you don't think it maybe will be important to others, that's going to be really important. I can tell you a story. I can tell you a story that one of my friends, Jacob, who is a contributor to this project, he actually kind of came up to me, and said, because I was kind of doing this for fun, I wasn't doing it for anything special, right? I was doing it for, well, not to say special, but to say that I wasn't doing it for a broad audience or anything like that. I was doing it for a few people at my job at the time, and so it was just to kind of get people engaged and kind of get people happy about it. And he kind of told me, he's like, man, why are you being so selfish with this idea? You're just kind of keeping it to yourself and keeping it to select people. It'd be great to get that out to the world. And looking at that kind of opened my eyes a lot, because I started to really think big picture, and think about, man, I really do want to share my world, right? Like, I've been creating stuff and creating worlds and things like that since I was a kid, right? So like, it's one of those things that make sure that you do keep your dreams in mind when you're doing this kind of stuff. But yeah, let me go right into it. So the first thing I'm going to actually be covering is are the happen cards, right? So those cards are basically things that happen in the world that you can't control, right? They can be multiple different kinds of cards, but kind of that's the idea. It could be something fantastic that happens to you. It could be something awful. It could be something that maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. It's kind of like it doesn't really change. It changes something, but it's not like a huge like disparity, right? It's just kind of like it could be good, could be bad, depending on the situation. And so that's kind of the general idea happens. So the first one I'm going to go over is just like a general happen, right? So this is one that basically is just it happens and then it's over, right? So there's some happens that continuously happen, or that have a broader range, right? So I'll kind of go over that. But yeah, this is a standard happen. So this one is you basically draw 3 happens, and all of those happens happen. And so basically, it kind of goes over and says that that you you basically have to do 3 happens in a row, which more than likely is probably going to cause something bad to happen. But then again, you could grab a few happen cards that are great. So it kind of depends. That's one of the examples of something that may be good, maybe bad, right? Could be either one. To go over that point as well, there are 2 little symbols up at the top. With the happen, this is a happen, and this is a happen symbol. So this is just basically a standard happen, right? But one thing you notice this here that's kind of darker, and then this here that's light. So you'll know that is actually a like a half and half, right? It could be bad, or it could be good, right? And so that's kind of, we call that the wheel and woe. So the woe would be the negative, wheel would be good. And so yeah, but that's the first thing. Second card we're going to go over is like a world card. So these cards would happen in the world, and then it would change the world around you and for everybody else. So it doesn't just affect the player that draws it, it affects everyone. And so in this one in particular, any kind of shells or sows, which are like heals and shields, they're actually turned into damage. So this particular card as well could be beneficial, it could be good, or it could be bad, right? It all depends on how that plays out for you. Because if an enemy tries to shell itself, then maybe it's going to damage itself now. So that's good for you, right? But then maybe you're doing a sow on somebody and then it hurts them. So it all kind of depends on how you look at it. But that's kind of the way that one works. The next one is a potion, and so potions, this would be all in the same deck, by the way. All these happens, they would be random draw. And so potions are good things usually. Well, they're pretty much always good things. But basically you can hold on to those and use those at any time. So with this one in particular, when you drink it, you'll actually discard a motive. So, and then we'll talk about that in a minute. But motives can be good and can be bad. So that's why it's really important that you're able to use this card at any time, because if you draw a bad motive, it can really cripple you and really hurt you in the game. And so so this one here is that. So it's basically discard a motive, yeah. So pretty cool. And as you can see, again, you have the symbol here for happen and the symbol here for the potion there. And so that's how you know. And same with the world. You have the world card here. All right, the last one of the happens is going to be a motive. So motives, what they do is they're actually they continuously happen. So basically, every time it's your turn, you have a certain series of operations that we'll go over in the other video that kind of goes over travelers. But you'll actually see that you'll have a to Z kind of what steps you take on your character, on your traveler. So basically, it'll say, here's your first step, here's your second step. So motives are a specific step in that pattern. And so yeah, so basically this is your standard motive here. With this one, you punch the wall and break your hand, right? So basically you're actually hurting yourself every time it's your turn. And so with this one, it's you can see that it's a woe and woe. So it's basically two negative effects. So it's always going to be bad. No matter how you look at it, right? Because you're just basically hurting yourself, and there's no return of investment or anything on it. So yeah, and you can see that this is the motive symbol right here, and yeah, so that kind of is the general idea. So all those cards are all happens, and they're all in the same pile. So it could be a regular happen, it could be a world. You never know, right? So yeah, we'll move on to summons. So I went ahead and grabbed a couple summons to show you guys. So yeah, so you've got the Metal Knight X. So basically this is a summon card here. This is the summon symbol, and then you'll actually have their blood here. and that's how much health they have. Yeah, there. Okay, here we go. So yeah, and then yeah, and so they have different moves. They have 4 different actions that they can use, and so what kind of happens is they'll actually go in and you'll roll for it. You'll roll the pyramid roll, which is a 4-sided die, and you'll decide which one. That'll decide which action they take, and so that's kind of the general idea down here. You can kind of see this one right here is that they'll do some damage to the enemy. This one here is they'll summon an ally, right? So yeah, and it kind of breaks down exactly what that summon will do, and those are who you're fighting against. Now, there are some instances where you'll be able to summon for yourself, right? So you'll be able to get these summons, and they work the same way. And in addition, they actually block any kind of incoming damage that you take. And so that is kind of like an extra shell for you too. So they always block it no matter what kind of damage it is first. So, and then this one is the Bloody Prophet. So you can see the let's see if we can get there. Yeah. So you can see the symbol there, and then the blood. Yeah, and so they have their own thing. And this is kind of the idea here is they can draw a summon. Now everybody can have just one summon at a time, but let's say that it is a traveler. If you summon something, then that summon can actually summon something, but they can only have one as well. So that's really the kind of the catch is if you summon it. It's kind of like a little bit of an extra addition. If they do summon something, then they can have it. But if a summon summons something, that summon can't summon another, right? Like an infinite loop of thousands of summons everywhere. Nothing like that. So yeah, so that's actually the general gist of happens. So let's say you defeat a summon, right? You've just won and defeated a summon. That's it's called the end of a chapter, right? And so, but yeah, you may get a loom, right? And a loom, there can be lots of different kinds, but looms really do quite a bit. They basically give you additional damage at no, or additional rip at no cost to you, right? So basically, if you have one of these, you're either doing damage or sewing or maybe a special ability, but it's all free, right? And you do it on every single turn that you take, every single move. Yeah, so let me give you a good idea of what's going on here. So this is an accessory, right? So you have the loom accessory, and yeah. So basically, with this one, you'll discard this card, but you'll draw 3 different looms. So accessories, kind of what they do is they're almost like just random things that can happen. So they're almost like happens, but they're more powerful. But also, let's say you get an accessory that is going to be, it's going to do something special for you. So maybe it draws a summon if you roll a certain number on your satellite roll, So different things like that. Yeah, so then we'll talk about our firing weapons. So that's a firing weapon, and then loom. And yeah, so this one is you do need ammo for this weapon, right? So ammo is another item. One thing to mention is you can only have one of each, and so if it's a firing weapon, you also have standard weapons, standard issue weapons, I guess, and those are the same in the sense that they're both weapons. So you can't have a firing weapon and an additional weapon. Because it would be too powerful. But yeah, in this particular case, if you do have ammo present, then you can roll a pyramid roll, 3 or higher. And if you do, then you can discard the current world that's happening right now. And so that one's pretty cool because sometimes those worlds can get real tricky, and you can be in a world that maybe reduces your rip amounts, or something like that. You'll be in a really tough spot. And that's one of the things about the game is in a lot of moments you are in a tough spot, right? It feels very much like you're almost like in a constant pressure of, oh man, I really have to get out of this. I have to get through this, right? And so that's one that will really uh, have everybody cheering, at the table if you do that sometimes. Yeah. So this is what an ammo looks like. So if a weapon is present, basically this is the ammo symbol and then the loom. If the ammo is present, or if the gun is present, sorry, the firing weapon, then you just rip 100 blood straight up. So it's basically like just free rip. You don't have to do anything. So that, for example, you have your firing weapon, you have your ammo. Together they're really strong, but you have to collect both for it to really matter, for it to really, really pack that punch. Yeah, so this is a standard weapon here. And with a standard weapon, you're just going to see this is your loom symbol, and then this is your weapon symbol. Yeah, and then so basically you're going to be looking at that. Yeah, that works. But yeah, you'll be looking at that. So if you roll a 4 or higher, then for 3 rounds the enemy takes the enemy summon takes 40 blood rip, right? And so with that one, you're looking at it, and it's going to give you a pretty good amount of rip, again for free, because once you get that, then every time your turn comes up, then you're going to use your move to actually do that as well. Last one's going to be armor, and with this one, these are actually Stompy boots of Stompy. And so if you roll 2 or lower, then you rip 50 blood. If you roll higher than that, then you actually rip more. So let me see if I can get that. Come on. There we go. Well, kind of. There we go. Yeah, if you do 2 or lower, 50 blood rip. 100 blood rip. So then that actually rips yourself. So that symbol right there, that's kind of like the pyramid, and then the blood in the center, that's actually yourself. So if you roll a 2 or lower, then you actually fall on the ground, damaging yourself. If you rip 2 or higher, or 3 or higher, you're actually ripping 100 blood to the enemy, and that's what the armor symbol looks like right there. Yep, and you can only have 1 armor. So you can only have 1 armor, 1 accessory, and then 1 weapon. Yep. So that's those. Now, let's say you die and you end up in a Masamao, which is kind of like the underworld, right? And there's several different ways you can get out of the underworld. Some are unpleasant, and but they work, sometimes, and some are great. So if you roll a 4 and then you roll another 4, then you actually get something called a life birth card. And what that does is it basically makes it so that you are more powerful in some way. So in this particular case, you would rise as an Elder Garben and deal some really, really serious damage. But you could explode and die, but you would rip the amount of blood you have. So that can be really, really strong. And the good thing is when you die, you just go into a Masamao and then try again, right? So it's not a permanent death. And even then, you also have a forever death card that looks like this. That you can actually flip this card. It's kind of like an all-in card, but yeah, there we go. It's kind of an all-in card, and once you flip this card, you come back full of with full blood, but your actual maximum blood is halved. So and you can't rebirth again. So once you die after you use this card, you're not able to rebirth at all. And so you do have this as like a oh no, I'm going all in. We gotta get this, you know. And so that's that. Now, here's an example of a death burst card. So if you roll a 2, and then you roll a 2 or higher, then you actually get a death birth. And what that does is it's a random deck that gives you some kind of negative debuff for returning back to life this way. And so in this one, you actually call forth the plague, and you draw 10 happens, and they all happen. So that's the death burst symbol right there. It's called End of Days. So basically, as you can imagine, that could be really detrimental, because that could affect everyone in multitude of ways. And with 10, you're probably going to run into something bad, right? So that is kind of the way to do it. But yeah, that's all for the cards for today. But I'm definitely going to go over the Traveler sheet as well, kind of show you what that's about in the next video. Thanks.